Hey everybody, JJ here. Welcome back for another Wednesday of Zoom Networking. Today we are honored to have a young man with us that is a good friend of mine. I happened to meet him personally at a live event and got to know him. And we talked yesterday, getting acquainted just a little bit more. One of the nicest young men I've had a pleasure to meet. Smart, kind. Let me tell you how nice this guy is and where his heart is at such a good place. He was in the Peace Corps for a while. Now you don't do that if it takes a certain heart of character, personality, and Jonah is that. He's just absolutely friggin' wonderful, man. Jonah Korchin, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, my man. I feel good to be here. I'm excited to teach people a little bit about agents and how to work with them and what's special about them. And yeah, I'm excited. This is going to be fun.
Cool. Yeah. So really quick, tell me a little bit about yourself before you got into real estate.
Yeah, so I mean, like you said, I graduated college. I went into the Peace Corps. I was what I call, my joke is I was basically a glorified peanut butter salesman. My official thing was I helped like this factory of women who made peanut butter, kind of help them start their business and start getting them going, which was cool. It was fun. Came back, didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life for a while. I started applying for jobs. I always had like a sales-y personality. Applied. First job I got was being an insurance salesman, and I remember I got like the accepted job offer, and I remember driving home and being like, my life can't end like this, and I'm 25, right? So I found out about real estate from just random meetups. I didn't know much about it. I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad a long time beforehand, but it didn't click with me the first time I read it. Like I understood the concept, but I was like, real estate didn't attract me. I don't know why. And then I went to a few meetups in San Francisco, and then I started learning about real estate. And then it kind of hit me. It's like, oh, wholesaling is 100% the best business for me ever. It's literally only about relating to people. I don't need to make a product. I'm helping out people. I'm making a ton of money while doing it. And then also it'll eventually lead to buying assets and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I got into it. I still mainly wholesale. I do like a flip a quarter. I own one sub two. And yeah, and I really like focus on agents. Agents are my main business, also other wholesalers, but we're mainly talking about agents today. And yeah, that's my story in a nutshell.
So you are killing it, which is very evidentful. I mean, you're growing so much, you're going to be looking to bring on an acquisition manager to help bolster your team, right?
I'm right now hiring another acquisitions manager.
There you go.
Yeah, we can talk about, I don't know if I should talk about that now, but at the very end, definitely anybody who finds me interesting or finds this whole strategy interesting and wants to, instead of struggle like me for a year and just wants to immediately make some money, it's a pretty cool opportunity.
Oh yeah, not only that, but if people are watching the video, because obviously this is recorded, you're going to keep growing. You only need a second acquisition manager, a third acquisitions manager. You'll be exploding. And so I think that always applies. But if you guys are on the call, you can follow up with him, and we'll provide the opportunity to do that. Just to let you know, I should have addressed this up front. You're out of the sub two community, and that's the Pace Morby community, and just a lot of great people, a lot of great investors. A program that's just putting out all stars. I mean, and here we are. We're fortunate enough to have yourself today. I'm going to bounce myself out and let you sit in the screen by yourself for a bit and just sort of explain what you want to explain. And when you're ready for the questions, I'll pop back in.
So basically, it's the art of getting deals from agents. It is a much different process than getting them direct to seller, because at least in my experience, you're now dealing with somebody who's licensed and either does know what they're doing or doesn't know what they're doing. It depends. But either way, they think they know what they're doing. So it's a very different conversation than when it's with a seller who they also might think that, but a lot of times they are a little bit more like, I kind of know what I'm doing. So I'm more open to listening to other ideas. But basically what it is it's the art of making relationships. I think this would be an amazing method for JJ, to be honest, is just networking. And when, if he opens that up in his business for getting deals, because it is literally just making a relationship, getting the person to like you, and then performing once they have an opportunity. So the way that I do it, or how I find agents, first off, is it's a lot of Facebook. It's a lot of like posting in Facebook groups, adding yourself and being like, hey, like what like, in fact, you want me to just do it right now? Hold on. I'm in the Bay Area, by the way. I mainly do San Francisco Bay Area and Sacramento, California. If you guys are in those markets, I will be very useful to you guys. I have over probably 2,000, 3,000 buyers or something like that. I don't really keep track, but it's something around there. And yeah, and you can, and I can give you buy numbers and I can find you a buyer for your deal, and I can tell you exactly what you need to lock it up for, because I've been doing this for a while. So find a Facebook group that says something like Bay Area Off Market Wholesale, something like this, right? You'll get more than agents too. You might get buyers just by being it, but do something like that. All you got to do is write something. I like putting like a little thing like this. It's more eye-popping. And I'd say something on the lines of, the reason why I am doing it like this, right? I'm not just asking for a real estate agent, right? This is a little bit of like knowing how an agent thinks. Agents are constantly looking to represent people on deals. That's very much speaking in their language. Instead of just saying, I'm looking for an agent who has deals, saying you need representation automatically in agent minds means like, oh, not only that, he probably has a deal he needs representation on, right? So I'd post something like that. I would post something like that, and then I get a ton of responses to this. And then I start talking to the agent. I bet I'll get responses of this on this call. So at one point we can come back and see where this goes. And my VAs have done this. So I think I was going to show you how you can post in other groups too. I should have brought my VAs on because they do it now. And I kind of forgot how to do it because I haven't done this in 2 years. But basically there's a way to do it where you can post on like several different groups at once, instead of like doing it over and over again. But you do something like that, right? And it's a great way to get agents. It's just one of many ways, is Facebook posting. Another is that I go through every single Facebook group like that, and then you're going to add agents, or you're going to just add people and then ask them, are they wholesalers, agents? Like, do they have deals? You start with by saying like, hey, you introduce yourself. My name's Jonah. I'm a real estate investor. I'm looking for fixers in whatever market you're in. Do you know of any? This is like a Facebook message. And then they'll be like, yep, blah, blah, blah. I work with investors. It's like, amazing. Are you an agent? Yep, amazing. Add them to the database. Then what I do is I follow, after I've done my introduction, I really try to get on the phone with them. This is the best practices for working with agents, in my opinion. And talking to people on the phone is key. You want to actually have them know you. If you're some guy who's just been texting them, you're not going to win. They're not going to be the one who sends you that deal, right? It's the same with a seller. You're not going to just text a seller for a deal. Like, you'll start that way, but you need to get on the phone and actually talk to them. It's the same with these agents, right? You getting on the phone, having a 5-minute conversation or so, introducing yourself, and then I'm going to tell you guys the hack, my hack at least. And this is what works for me and my personality. It's like a one simple line. I've said it on any topic that I've ever talked about agents about. And it's basically like, let's say I'm talking to an agent, this is my intro. So my name is Jonah. I'm a real estate investor. I'm looking for fixers all over NorCal. What I do differently than all the other real estate investors you've talked to is I can solve problems better than anybody else. In fact, it's why my company exists. It's more for solving problems. So if you ever come across a listing that doesn't make sense for the MLS, let's say there's no equity, or the bank is going to foreclose in 3 days, or there are tax liens, or it's in probate, whatever it might be, our goal is to be the tool in your tool belt that you use in order to solve that problem and get you your commission. And then just pause. Let that sink in. A lot of times, I might also say, like, does that make sense? Because sometimes people just, like, agents will, like, hear all of that and they'll be like, wait, what? What do you mean? Aren't you going to tell me that you want 3-bed, 2-bath and anything over 1,500 square feet? And then you got to be like, no. That's not my criteria. My criteria is I'm a problem solver, and that's why I'm in this business. You can send me the vacant fixers. I'll take those, but I'm not any different than anybody else. My value is that I solve problems better than anybody else. And then, but the next question that a lot of people ask me is like, okay, Jonah, what if I don't know how to do that? Well, here's my number. I will teach you how to do that. I do not need to be part of the deal. If I don't know how to do it, I'll find you somebody who knows you how to do it. It doesn't have to be in my market. I'm not going to take any money. You just bring me, if I'm helping you solve a problem, that's good enough for me. Just text me and I'll either find a person in your market or I'll help you and we'll figure something out. But what you have to do in this business, and this is more than just agents, is you have to be a problem solver. You have to be adding value first. That's not in the top of your mind, no matter where you're doing it, whether you're doing, no matter what strategy, sellers, probate attorneys, agents, whatever it might be, you're going to lose to people like me if you're not focusing on that and you're just focusing on the money and the deals. That's the number one reason I think people aren't successful. Maybe consistency right before that, but then after that, that's the reason, is that they don't think about the fact that you've got to be adding value. I'd rather you guys take that away than the agent stuff, to be honest, because I know a lot of you aren't necessarily ready to do agents, but a lot of you are definitely ready to add value and be a problem solver. And that's going to bring you way more. That's going to bring you the most success no matter what you're doing. So anywho, I'll also get quickly right now, since we're talking about it, like, why would you guys want to do this business model? Like, what's the pros? What's the cons? So in essence, it's a JV model. I don't know how many, I saw Vincent Lanza was on here. So he's a JV model, but with wholesalers and then closing it creatively. The pros of agents are that it's not going to cost you any money in marketing. It's going to be incredibly cheap and you're still going to make a ton of money. The con is it's much better for flipping and cash, at least what I've noticed personally. I haven't had much luck on creative deals with it, but it's an amazing way to start generating revenue if you've never done a deal before. And then it's free, and it's really cool because you're never going to be constrained by a marketing budget. I don't really have marketing. I probably spend $200 a month sending out texts every single month to agents, and that's my marketing budget. And they're just follow-ups. I follow up every 2 weeks with my agents, at least. Every 2 weeks, I send them just a text being like, do you got any deals? Because that's the other thing. It's consistency. Those were the two things. Adding value consistently. So I'm consistently adding value. I have a database of probably 3,000, 4,000 agents, and I follow up with every single one of them every other week, at least. And that's why, like, I am on them. And the person who gets the deal, it's not even always the person who has a relationship. It's sometimes just the person who's there in the right moment. Same with sellers. It's very similar to sellers in the sense of, like, you might have just called at the right time. Your cold caller called at the right time and they're ready to sell, and it's just boom, 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 done. Right? There are a lot of similarities there. It's a different skill set too. I have a bit of a story with it as well, in the sense that I think it is an amazing method, but also my story was, I think you should have whatever you're doing right now developed more, unless you're really trying to figure out what path you're going into. It's a great starter path, in my opinion. And I love it because I'm basically very soon going to automate it, and then it'll be there just forever. But I had a lot of trouble with doing a direct to seller and an agent business at the same time, if you're like a solopreneur. But it is an amazing method. I really like it. I do it. I wholesale with it. You could flip with it. You can get creative deals with agents. It's just harder because now you're dealing with two barriers. You're dealing with a seller who doesn't understand it and an agent who doesn't understand it. So now you're dealing with two barriers that you have to get across instead of just one if you're doing direct to seller. But it's definitely possible. And yeah, it's an amazing method. I honestly think there are very few downsides, other than it's hard. I think it's harder to get buy and holds with it than flips and wholesales. But other than that, I think it's great and an amazing method.
So what's the difference about working with agents versus direct to seller? What's the best benefit? What are the benefits of working with agents versus direct to seller?
So I feel like I kind of got a little into that, but the best benefit, I think, is it's free and it's continual forever. Once you have a relationship with someone, they're going to send you deals for the rest of their lives. If you take care of them and you grow that relationship, that's with you forever. I've done 3 deals with one agent, and it will keep sending me deals forever. That's a forever machine. Instead of direct to seller, you always have to be marketing. Once you buy a house from a seller, done. They don't keep having houses. Agents constantly have houses. It's less expensive. The con is it's usually not quite as much of you probably won't get as big of a wholesale fee as you would from direct to seller. And I think it's harder to do creative things, like if you're trying to buy and hold creatively. But if you want an amazing cash generating machine, I think it's an amazing option for people.
Okay. We had a couple of the questions you wanted to cover. What is your system and what's the pipeline?
Okay, so when I told you this question, I basically was thinking like, okay, where does lead gen come from? So lead gen is mainly Facebook posts, Facebook in general, and adding people in groups like that one. I would add yourself to groups, just like whatever market you're in: Sacramento off-market real estate, Sacramento wholesale deals, Sacramento real estate agents, whatever it is. Add yourself. I add 80 people a day, and then I message 10 people every hour. That's like the limit of Facebook, where you won't get blocked, because Facebook will eventually block you. But I've found that it's about 80, add 80 from a group every single day. Add 80, then the next day add 80, but then don't have more than 160 out. So what you want to do is on the third day, you get rid of all of the people who haven't responded, and then add another 80 from the spot. That's a really good lead gen. I mean, I could talk about lead gen forever. Another really good thing to do is literally just type in compass.com or whatever brokerages you know of. Click that, you can literally type in the area you're in, and then there'll be a list of all the brokers and agents in that area. All of them, all of their cell phone numbers, all their emails. Just get a VA, or you write down all their cell phones and then text them.
You were talking about lead generation. We had a question that you put down here. How do you go from lead generation all the way to closing?
So that's kind of like, I must have, if I said both of them, those are like the exact same question as what's the pipeline. So it'll be,
that's part of that question. Okay.
Yeah. Get that cell phone number. send a text message, call them, have a 5-minute conversation, and then follow up with them every 2 weeks. And I guarantee you, if you do that every single day, you'll eventually get an opportunity, an off-market opportunity. You'll get it. You should do this actually while this is happening, is find somebody like me in your local market, whether it's a Keegley franchise, just a buyer, or a really good dispo wholesaler. There are many different ways to do it. If you're in sub-2 or Astro, I would just leverage that community. It's way easier. If you aren't in those communities, I would look up on Google. I would just Google we buy houses, whatever your market is. Call every single one of them. Ask them what they do. If they're a buyer, how much they're buying. If they're a big buyer, use them for buy numbers. Just start there. Start with your buyer. If you're brand new, that's what you do. You want to make sure you have an accurate buy number and you're not just throwing out offers randomly. You need to know your market and what people are buying at, and stuff like that. What about selling to hedge funds? I'll be honest, hedge funds don't buy in the Bay Area. It's a really weird market. I think I know of one hedge fund that buys in Sacramento. They don't like California generally, or at least I've noticed. I think there's one or two in Sacramento, but I haven't networked with them, so I'm not, I don't feel qualified to answer how that works.
Dave Marsh, you're up with Jonah. What's your question?
Just a quick one. Thanks, Jonah, for coming on. Are you using Privy? And if so, are you guys liking it? Are you making it one of your main strategies? Or I assume you probably tried it.
I'm personally not using Privy because, Privy is really good for on-market deals. Again, a lot of my strategies were tailored to my market. In the Bay Area, what they do is they list it for $500K less than what they actually want, and then just expect a bidding more.
Yeah.
That's incredibly freaking annoying for a wholesaler, because that means once I have it under contract, even if it's a deal, they're seeing that I'm trying to sell at $500K over asking, which is garbage, even if it is a deal, because just immediately they're like, I'm off of it.
So you're developing relationships, so you get the before a bucket listing, before it hits the MLS, not on market properties.
I've done on markets before. What I do is I'll do on markets if I know the listing agent personally. Yeah. So like if I have a relationship with the listing agent, but it's not one of those situations where it doesn't make sense for the MLS, where it definitely does make sense for the MLS, so they post it on the MLS, then I'll do it on market every once in a while.
Hey, you're on the screen here. You're with us. So Logan, you got a question for Jonah?
I was just wondering, as far as like proof of funds go, like I'm 19, so I don't have just $500,000 laying around. I know that you can get fake ones online. Have you ever gotten called out and ratted out or just yelled at for using them? Or
it is so easy to get a proof of funds. It's insanely easy. It's all about sounding confident.
Okay.
Right? That's the issue that most new people have, is that they're not willing to sound confident.
Right.
All you have to do so there's a somewhat little bit more harder way, and then there's a much easy way. Especially I think it's easier for somebody starting, which is basically find a buyer, talk to them, make a relationship, say what you're doing, and then just get them to like you, which is not very hard if you're about to make them a ton of money. Just be like, hey, to get you deals, I kind of need a proof of funds. Do you have a hard money lender that you can refer me to that knows you and I can utilize your name? They'll always say yes. And then you have a relationship with a hard money lender, and then you have a legitimate proof of funds. Don't use the stupid ones that aren't real. That's lazy, in my opinion. Just to be honest, I think it's super lazy, and just it's so easy to get a proof of funds.
Okay.
Same easy.
Jonah, I want to touch on that. Logan, hang on a second. Sometimes he's new, he's 19. He's getting going. He's not been out there for 5 or 8 years right now, whatever, or having a job from another line of employment for several years. But in the beginning, would it be beneficial to joint venture with someone with a little bit of experience and then have their proof of funds, or?
Yeah. 100%. I have a few wholesalers who, I don't know why, I've told them what I just told you, and they're like, you know what, Jonah, I just want to use your proof of funds. And I'm like, okay, I mean, you can use my proof of funds, but I'm only going to give out my proof of funds. Like, it won't work because it's my LLC, right? So I'm not going to, like, it only work if I'm the one on the purchase contract. They're like, I trust you, let's do it. I like, what I'll do is I don't do gator lending. I know Pace talks about that. What I do is I'm like, look, I personally don't feel comfortable putting my EMD in your deal. Here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to have a proof of funds and be the one on the purchase contract. And then we sign a JV agreement. We split the deal 50-50 no matter what. And then I'll also disposition the deal too.
Okay.
So I do a lot for the person, but then I get something exclusive, which even if I'm doing all the work, but I get something exclusive, for me, that's worth it.
Right.
You know,
So
and then
that's my strategy with people.
the other benefit of that, Logan, is that even though he's doing all the work and getting half the money, whatever, it behooves you to not worry about your profit when you're getting going, but you split that profit. Be glad to split that profit when you can partner up with someone of experience, such as Jonah or somebody else. You know, because in the beginning, it's about getting the experience and getting those deals done. And as you're working alongside someone like Jonah, someone with experience, you'll then through that get more confident than you're eventually on your way.
You should 100% work with somebody who's more experienced, like me, for buy numbers and for EMD.
Gotcha.
You can get a proof of funds though. Like even if you're 19, like I think it's one of the most ridiculous things that people can't get proof of funds. It's like, it's so easy, guys. They don't check anything at all. They're just like, oh, Brian knows you and Brian's done millions of dollars of business with me. Okay, here's one right here. Done.
Got you. Okay.
Thank you guys, first of all. And secondly, my question, Jonah, is what does your follow-up look like with these agents to keep them engaged and interested since you're following up consistently?
It's really simple. It's like one text that's like, hey, how have you been? Do you have any deals right now? It's literally it. It's a super simple text. It's just, it's more just like reminding them that you exist. And then anytime they send me anything, it's like, oh yeah, I got this working. It might be until May. I am on that person, probably depends. But like if they have one, then I put them in my tasks. You guys want to see my systems? How about that? Would you guys get benefit from seeing what software I use?
That would be awesome.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it. So this is REI Reply. This is one of my CRMs. So basically, I'll set up campaigns in here where these are conversations where I'm texting people. This is like one I'm dispositioning right now. I can see all of my employees and what they're talking about with people, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, once they send me anything, I'll put it in tasks. And then these are tasks that are in here. These are all the ones of people who have been like, I have an off market. And like some of these people were like, Jonah, I'm not ready for 2 months. Still contacting them in 2 months. I got it in my calendar, ready to go when they're ready to go. Right. And so as soon as you get a possible deal, I automatically write it down. I follow up with these people and like, let's see what's happening here. This one's an intro. Here, hold on. That's just somebody. Hold on, that's not an agent. I also do it for other stuff too. Let's choose Kenny. This guy, this isn't an agent, but I kind of want to go on it with this sense of, look how long I've been following up with this guy. This is a direct to seller, but this was back when I did direct to seller. If they are still somewhat interested in selling, I do not care. I will keep contacting them, even if I contact him monthly, until I know that's sold or the problem solved and they're not interested anymore. Like the only thing is if the problem solved or if the house is sold. And they will stay in there in my tasks forever till the end of time. Yeah, it's really simple though. It's like a really simple text.
Cool. Okay, Robert, is that good?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Perfect, brother.
I just wanted to make a comment. I'm actually a real estate agent here in the Phoenix area, and I love the information you're providing. I wanted to add one of the most annoying things in the world is when we get a million text messages from all these different agents that we don't know, we've never talked to, never nothing. So the fact that you contact your agents, I can tell you that you will get saved in phone over any of the 40 messages that say, hi, are you still in real estate? Do you have any listings coming up?
Right.
And all of those are sitting there. So just you saying that you're calling them and having that conversation, I think that's huge. Like I said, you'd get saved in my phone. And then the only other thing I would add to that is if you're contacting an agent, and a lot of you guys are wholesalers, a lot of you are sub two flippers, give your criteria in addition to talking about your, to what you're going to offer. And I can tell you as an agent, if you contact me and you say, hey, this is what I'm going to offer, this is my problem solving, also, this is my criteria, I'm more likely to work with you, because when we get somebody who calls and says, oh yeah, I'm looking for everything in any area under all price points, it's hard for me to work for you. What I'm going to go to, if I get the anything, I'm going to take it to some of my investors I work with on a regular basis. But if you say, hey, I'm looking for a property in the central Phoenix area that has this A, B, and C, when that property comes across my desk, I'm more likely to go, somebody's looking for that. So if you can give even just a little bit of criteria, even if your criteria expands, make sure we know and keep us up to date. And I think keep calling, keep staying in touch. And I think that's huge if you really want to get deals from us. And I give deals out fairly regularly. So, but mine go to the agent or to the investors who contact me. So I think
I really appreciate that. 100%. Yeah. No, the calling is the most important thing, easily. It's just a 5-minute, it doesn't have to be that long either. No. It can just be a 5-minute call, because we're busy, you're busy. And I'll definitely keep that in mind of giving the criteria too. And I'm curious, we can have a conversation too, just because I don't usually often talk to an agent and think about what they thought about that. Generally, what I say to people, like when because a lot of people are like, okay, but like, what's your actual criteria? I'm like, okay, I can give it to you. What I really, really look for are problems. Like, that's really what I'm looking for. But in terms of like technical criteria, for me, it's usually 70 to 75% of after repair value. What after repair, then I asked them, I was like, do you know what after repair value means? I'd say half of the time they don't know what that means. And I'm like, so if a house is worth $1 million pretty, I want it at $750,000 ugly. And this is usually what I look for margins. I generally go do single family and multifamily, not huge into commercial, mostly residential. And then generally I like the cities of Sacramento and the city and anywhere in the Bay Area, but I don't like going out of Central Valley or something like that. Yeah. So I don't know. Do you think that's specific enough for somebody? I'm curious.
If you were to send me that text or have that conversation with me and then shoot it to me in a text, I am far more likely to give you a deal than when that deal comes across my desk. I may hand it off to somebody who I know what their criteria is. If I can tell you what your criteria is, I have 50 agents. I'm a part of the weekly huddle here in Phoenix. And so we have quite a expansive investor group, but you give me some type of criteria, I have something to look for you, and I'm going to remember you. And I bet you most agents are like that. And mind you, I work with a lot of investors, so it's a little different, but for an agent who doesn't work with investors, you're going to be who sticks in their head compared to the 50. I'm not kidding. Like, I can't tell you how many texts I get every day that say, are you still in real estate? Is their first question. Do not ever ask an agent that. It's annoying. Are you still in real estate? I'm looking for a deal. Great. What's your criteria? Yeah. Anything, everywhere, anywhere. Okay. Have a great day. That's honestly my response, because if you don't know what you're doing, why should I waste my time on what you're doing?
Right.
But if you know what you're doing, if you can say, I'm looking for, and you can even Start with something and expand out. Say, I'm looking for 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Central Phoenix that I'm able to add square footage to. Perfect. But I'm open to other areas in the Phoenix Scottsdale area. Great. Now I know what you're open to, but what you ideally want. And even then, I'll go on the MLS and go scour, because I know what a deal is on the MLS, finding that 3-2. Obviously, it's hard right now, but it's still possible. I've still purchased 2 houses on the MLS for investors in the last 3 months.
Love
and
it.
They're going to be great deals. So
I really appreciate you adding that. I love that perspective.
yeah, I like yours too. This is a very enlightening.
Yeah.
Hearing the other side of those text messages.
Yeah, exactly.
Jonah, I wanted to know, do you ever have to explain that you're going to wholesale the deal? And have you run into any issues? Because I heard someone say it's better to be open and honest up front to let them know what you're going to be doing.
It's always better to be open and honest, right? So what I do, and this is what I do. So it's easy for me because I don't just wholesale. I also do flip. So it's very easier for me to say. But what I used to say, even when I just wholesale, is, yeah, me and my partners, he's saying my partners, because my buyers are my partners. We fix and flip properties, we buy and hold, and sometimes also we wholesale if the deal doesn't work for us. And we love that too, because we have a network of over 3,000 buyers. So a lot of times you're actually even more likely for us to close than if it was a regular investor. That's what I used to say when I didn't fix and flip myself, was using the partner role. Just introducing yourself, it means a lot like that too. Sometimes I kind of forget, or it doesn't come up, but once I'm doing an offer, what I do is I explicitly put an assignment clause in my contract. The California Realtors contract actually has an assignment clause that I put in my own, so that everyone knows that I could assign it and that I could wholesale it. Then sometimes they come back to me and they'll ask me about it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's one of our exit strategies. We do it all the time. Here's some past ones that I've done before. I've also done flips. I'm not like a newbie. I'm not like new to this. We 100% do business. And if you haven't done a deal yet, again, it's so crucial to link up with somebody who has, for these exact reasons. What I used to do is, if they, like, agents sometimes will ask for past flips you did, I would just utilize a buyer and just be like, I mean, and in my opinion, they are your partner. And if they're the ones who are going to buy the deal, or one of the main potential ones, you can leverage them in order to use their properties. Be like, here's one that me and my partners have done before. Ideally, you hopefully wholesaled it to them, but I've leveraged buyers before in order to do that, so that it gives you credibility. But the basic thing is you want to make sure you have your numbers right, and the only way to do that is actually talking to a buyer. Yeah. And honestly, if I was just starting, I would just get 5 buyers can close, or 5 really good dispo wholesalers, and leverage them in their experience in order to start working with an agent.
Okay.
Yeah, if that makes sense. So yeah, and generally, and if you have that upfront conversation with them, that's when you're not going to have any issues. You sometimes have issues anyways. A lot of times you'll have issues when there's 2 agents and your buyer's agent understands, and you had that conversation with them, but the buyer agent didn't really have that conversation with the seller's agent. And even if they see the assignment clause, they might not understand it. So the marketing might come back to them, and then they start getting all pissy. And then you got to be like, no, you didn't understand what that clause meant. You didn't understand that this is completely legal. Everything's above board. You are uneducated about it. And you don't say that out loud, but like what you say is like, here's how this works. It's completely legal. Here's like stuff I've done before. It's very, very common. It's one of our exit strategies. And yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Okay, thank you.
Great. That was great, Veronica, because I have a follow-up to that. I'm getting resistance when I'm above board like that, about possibly assigning a contract, and they'll tell me they won't write the they won't do it. They just flat out refuse. They say you can't assign contracts. So I feel like then I'm stuck sort of with double closing. But maybe I'm just not approaching it completely correctly.
Generally, I would just move on. That agent is going to just be so much more of a headache than it's worth. Just to be honest, if they're out of the gate, like, I don't work with people who sign contracts, why work with them? It would be like if you're like an ice cream supplier and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, we don't work with someone who sells vanilla ice cream. It's like, what? That's so weird. Okay, well, I guess we're not doing business then. Just like, it's so not worth the headache. There's so many agents out there who understand or don't care and understand that that's just part of being business. If they're sending you a deal that is like a home run, then I would see, like, for me, what I would do is I would double close it if I knew it was like a home run. And I would only send it to my VIP buyers. I would send it to maybe like 10 people. That's what I would do. But if it's just like a general intro call, or if it's like one that's like, maybe it's in a deal, maybe it's not worth the headache. Just don't do it. So not worth it. There's so many agents who will work with you.
Okay, yeah, because I'm even seeing that I started from the agent challenge, I started using, doing Privy and looking at on-market deals. And I'm finding in some of the agent listings, they're saying, no wholesalers, no assignments, right out front. So I've just been either not calling them or thinking, if I were to call on that property, like I just saw one that was a package of 5 properties and that was right in there. So I'm like, well, this could be a really good situation. But then do you go to a different agent and have, rather than go to the listing agent? So,
if it's a screaming deal, I would just partner up with a buyer that you trust. It's having buyers you trust, right? Like, if there's a deal, don't not do it because they don't like assignments. At that point, just say, okay, screw it. I'm gonna find my buyer first, show them this, okay, trust them, and just go from there, right? Don't let it intimidate you if there is a deal there, but if it's like just like a first freaking call, or like it's just if it's just if it's like an okay deal, for me it's not worth the headache,
right?
Personally, okay. If it's like potentially maybe a 5 to 10K deal, I don't deal with it. Like, for me, I don't have the time, and it's not worth the headache anymore for me. There are just too many deals out there. So I just think you're talking to the wrong agents then, in my opinion. You're talking to agents who've been burned, right? Because most people, terrible advice that's out there is go find the deal first and then you'll find a buyer. That's the stupidest advice I've ever heard in my entire life. Find a buyer first so you know what the hell you're doing, because that's your clientele basically, and then go find a deal based on whatever the hell they want, right? Mm-hmm. It was like what Amelia was saying with why they like somebody giving their criteria. And even better is working with an ingrained disposition wholesaler, in my opinion, or having both, or at least having both ideas is the best. But having a disposition, because like I can sell deals higher than what a buyer would say is a deal, right? And sometimes certain buyers will, I don't know if this is taking advantage of, but they'll say it a little lower than what they would actually buy it for.
Right.
That's why I even more like using like a Keegley franchise or a big disposition wholesaler, because they're usually a little bit more honest, but also have a buyer as a backup so that you get an idea too. It's what I would do.
Okay, great. And then last question, I've been running across these just because I've been trying to do the on-market deals. I'm finding wholesalers are listing their deals through an agent as like through flat fee agents. But then you're sort of daisy chaining in that situation, aren't you? Like,
well, what you do is, so this is a whole nother method. This is going to wholesaling, but this is good. So if you're an agent, you don't need to do anything, right? Agents can market properties anytime, anywhere. If you're not an agent, you need what's called equitable interest. It's why you need a purchase contract, right? Before you wholesale something, because you're
right.
wholesaling the purchase contract. And what you're actually marketing is the contract, not the property. That's what technically you're doing. So what you do is when you talk to that wholesaler, you're like, hey, I have some potentially interested buyers. Can we sign a non-exclusive JV agreement where it basically all it does is gives me equitable interest, so I'm not doing something illegal, and then I get to bring a buyer to the table. Some wholesalers will say no because they're just uneducated, but any wholesaler with any sense is like, whatever, as long as if I still get my price, I don't care, right? So.
Okay, and then in that case, you add your 5,000 or whatever, or you share whatever their.
If you don't know them, you add your fee on top, almost always. If you have a relationship with them, then I've done it where I split it 50-50. I generally am just leave it up to them how they want to define it. I'm like, do you want to give me a price? Do you want to split this on a percentage basis? How do you want to do this? And then they'll let me know.
Okay, great info. Thank you.
I'm starting up, no money, 9 to 5. Would it be best to have a team, or is that something I can go ahead and start on my own and then, build my team as I go?
Definitely build your team as you go. I mean, if you have no money, I don't even know how you'd have a team, right?
Right.
Like you would definitely got to do it by yourself if you have no money. But even if you had all the money in the world, I'd say do it as you go, because you're going to be able to train everybody, right? And that means you have to have worn every single hat at some point. First steps, if you're interested in this strategy, I think the first step is a couple of simultaneous steps is find buyers, have a conversation with them, be like, what are you looking for? How can I bring value to you? And like because I'm looking to make relationships. And you start there so you get an idea for your market. And then you go into these Facebook groups and network with agents, have the conversation that I was saying. You can use the texting script. You can just ask. It's not hard. You just have to follow up with them and be consistent. If you're not consistent, you're going to get frustrated. There's no point. If you, for whatever reason, are not consistently texting people or consistently calling them, you're never going to get a deal. It's impossible. You're going to get outbeat by people like me who are following up every other week. You don't even have to be good at talking to them, in my opinion. You just have to be the one who's there. You'll get better, obviously, but like you just have to be there and you'll learn your lessons as time goes on.
Yeah, okay.
Well, Vaughn, I've got a question for yourself. Have you invested in one of the multiple education programs, Sub 2, Fortune Builders, Astro Flipping, anything like that?
No, sir, I have not. I just been doing YouTube videos and taking notes and doing, networking here. I'm in Mississippi, so I typically go to my investor groups, see what they have. Usually it's not a lot. So that and all, Facebook, try to go ahead and see what I can fish out there.
Well, I will invite you to add me as a friend, and I'll get you into my networking group. And there's no cost to the group. It is about helping people, and I can show you my method of networking and making relationships. And as you do that, you'll be people like Jonah in our group. We'll have guest speakers such as Jonah in our group, and I think participating with us would help with your growth as an investor. It's by surrounding yourself with good people, and that's what Jonah was talking about earlier, getting to know people, making those relationships.
Text me also, just text me your name and like being like, hey, I was on this call, I'm in Mississippi, and I will connect you with a Sub2 or Astro member who can help you out, help you get started. But before I do that, you have to be prepared to bring value to them. I don't want to introduce them unless you're ready to be like, hey, I'm consistently looking for deals from agents, or I'm cold calling every single day. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing this every day. I want to learn. If I bring you opportunities, will you help me close these deals? Because if I give a referral out and you're not giving value, then it's useless to you and it's useless to the person I'm referring out. And I only want to refer people who are willing to add value. So that's one of the best ways to add value as a newbie is just I'll find you deals, just help me close them. So I'm willing to help you out as long as you're willing to help the person I refer you out to.
Okay, I'm for it.
I think we had a couple more other questions that you gave me in advance. What was the importance of mentorship in your journey?
It was everything. If you guys can afford mentorships, like I would not recommend it if you can't afford it. But once you get a deal, I would immediately turn all of that money into buying a really good mentorship, whether it's Fortune Builders, whether it's Paces, whether it's Jamil's. I'm a member of both Jamil and Paces. What I did is I bought Jamil's, and then as soon as I got another deal, I bought Paces, right? Because I knew always invest in yourself first. The best investment is in yourself. So I would join either of those communities. They're both amazing. My business is way more Astro, right? Way more Jamil, because this is all his method. I am about my thing is probably around Q4 at the end of the year. I'll have this part of my business completely automated. And then I'm going to start opening up direct to seller again, and then start buying Sub2s and doing way more creative stuff. Yeah, it's amazing.
Great. Hey, you had another question you gave me in advance. What have been your greatest challenges in working with agents?
Why did I give you that question? That's a hard question. The greatest challenges are just learning how to talk to them and understanding their needs. Because at the very beginning, especially, you don't understand their perspective very well. And so you got to understand their perspective and what they like and what they're looking for. And I think what would be a good idea is at the very beginning, just talk to an agent and be like, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make more relationships with agents. What do you need in order to start working with you, for instance, or anybody else? What would you recommend to a newbie? I wish I had done that. That would have been helpful. That would have been helpful if I found an Amelia and been like, hey, so how do I do this? What makes you work with an investor versus another one?
Amelia definitely sounded pretty sharp there, and those are the kind of agents we want to deal with. Hey, we're going to go to breakout rooms. I want to ask one last question before we call it here, but and you've kind of addressed on you kind of touched on throughout your whole presentation. But for the new real estate investor, or even the senior real estate investor that's kind of been on their own for a while, what is the importance of networking and building relationships for a new investor or an investor to grow their business?
I mean, it's literally everything, right? I would not be where I am today if I didn't have the communities I'm a part of, the mentorships, if I hadn't the masterminds I'm a part of. Networking with realtors is literally my entire business, right? So I wouldn't have a business if I wasn't networking. My entire business is networking, right? And just systematizing it. That's just the difference between me and most people is I systematize networking, basically. the idea. So.
Well, yeah, great answer. And obviously, you know, that you've mentioned that throughout your presentation. Hey guys, we're going to cut out. This is Jonah Korchin. He's the man. His business is growing. Not only is he looking for one acquisitions, you know, manager now, 6 months from now, he'll be looking for two in a year.
Wait, JJ, can I talk about that real quick?
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead, brother.
So also something, if you guys are interested in this and you're just starting out, and I took my story even more. It took me 4 months to get my first deal, and then it took me another 8 months to get my second deal. If you don't want to struggle like that and you just want to plug into somebody's operation, my acquisition manager, my first one, in his first 2 months, I don't usually do this as bragging, but I do this because I want somebody else to have this opportunity. He made $65K on his first deal in 2 months. I want to set you guys up for success. You'll be getting deals way quicker. You'll be learning so much quicker. 100% could be a great opportunity. So please text me at my number if you'd be interested in just plugging into somebody else's operation for a little bit. It'll be whoever gets it is going to be very lucky. I can tell you that much.
Well, as we spoke earlier, it sounds really interesting. Throw my name in that hat and let's see where I come out. But working with someone like yourself, learning from the best is definitely something we all want to do. Hey guys, thanks for coming out for Zoom networking. Stick around if you're on the call. We're going to do the breakout rooms. If you're watching the video on YouTube right now, please like the video down below. Please add a comment. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for coming out. And we'll see you guys soon. On behalf of me and Jonah, over and out.